everybody, and welcome to the Bears Den, presented by War Media and Sports Zone Chicago. I am Saul Rodriguez, joined by my co-host Joe Tanksley, who you see on all of our Bears coverage, as well as Sean Sierra, or Greg, as you know him nowadays, our head Bears reporter, as well as you can see him on Sports Zone Chicago's shows like Sean and Maya. And of course, our special guest today, none other than Ken Davis, who you've seen on That Davis Show, as well as NBC Sports Chicago's Under Center podcast. Welcome, Ken. How you doing today?
You know I'm not doing good. I'm mad. Nick Saban retired, and I'm upset. I had some of the greatest years of my life. My old lady told me today. She said, "You're gonna be all right." That man gave you some wonderful experiences and probably paid some bills in this house. You're gonna be fine as time goes on. I'm like, yeah, but I think this is the thing. But this before, of course, we got a lot of Bear stuff to get into, everybody. So mind me while I'm venting about what happened with Alabama today. I never knew it was going to happen. My dad used to tell me stories about Bear Bryant. All right. So now I almost got emotional right there. But my dad used to tell me stories about Bear Bryant. He used to talk to one of the stories he used to tell me and how in history, the story is shaped differently. So he told me that Bear Bryant, I believe, intentionally played against a school that had a lot of black starters, so that the people at Alabama would let him get black players to show that they needed black players. So as a kid, it was always weird because I'm like, wait, I don't know if that's right. Like, I don't know, Dad. It still seems like some racism was going on in this. And I always say the great racist state of Alabama. My father's from Alabama. I grew up in the house with my father, my grandmother, and my great aunt. They were all from Alabama. So that's my home state. All right. But so I didn't know. And then we talked before coming on here. Dante Culpepper instead of Drew Brees. Drew Brees had the shoulder injury that last game in San Diego. We know what Drew Brees did in New Orleans with Sean Payton. But it made him go to Alabama. And him going to Alabama, I would have never known they were going to have the greatest dynasty in college football. This will never be repeated. All right, like this in this era where you can pay everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're never going to get enough players. This, like, I used to be like that. SC run was the run. They surpassed that SC run that Pete Carroll had, right? But so for him, and I knew I've dreaded this for years, but I just didn't think. And I know that people have been saying it a little bit. I saw Bomani Jones, a clip of Bomani like a week ago mentioning it. And I was a topic on ESPN briefly recently, but I didn't know the day was gonna be that day. And at first it was like, yeah, man, it was like, okay, cool. But then it really started sinking into me what this meant for me. So again, thank you, Nick Saban, for giving me some terrific years and experiences and shit talk. I wish you the best, but now we enter the wilderness as far as Alabama goes.
It's wide open now. College football is wide open.
How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing really well. Fired up today. Had a good CrossFit workout today. Good show today. Sean and Maya today. Interesting press conference today. Dude, I think it was an hour and a half long. What else? All three of them, but hour and a half long. Watched every second of it. It was good. Good. Open. It's a lot of questions, a lot of uncertainties, a lot of playing coy. So yeah, I'm excited. Then I got to hop out on my guy KD. I ain't seen KD in a minute.
I'll be on next week. Set it up.
Bet.
How you doing, Joe? How's it going, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I can't complain. I know we got a lot to dive into, but you mentioned Bear Bryant and the history that he has. With, bringing black players to Alabama and what he meant to college football. When you bring in that history and what Nick Saban's been able to do, I mean, it's kind of shockwaves throughout the sporting world right now. So, I'm not the biggest Alabama fan, but I do appreciate greatness when I see it. And like you said, we're not gonna have anything like this or like that, for a long time, if ever again.
Yeah, that's what I was saying too to you, Joe, before we get on here, is that I never thought I'd see the day Nick Saban, was going to retire, and that's today's that day, and it's crazy. But I will say this, it's as crazy as it was, I'm sure for Ken and any Bama fan, it has also been a hectic day for Bears fans, and Man, the regular season is in the past. The Bears finished 7-10, and they have a bevy of questions heading into the offseason. And a lot of them will kind of answer today with certain positions and all that, and what we're going to see next year. But still, plenty of stuff to go. But before we get into that, specifically the coaching stuff, because we'll definitely talk about that, I wanted to ask you guys about the last game of the season because we haven't had a chance to talk about that. Of course, the Packers defeat the Bears 17-9, and the Bears, they couldn't ruin the Packers party. But how did you guys feel about that? I mean, that was Justin Fields going 11 of 16 on the passing game, got sacked 5 times, while Jordan Love eclipsed 4,000 yards with his 316 passing yard game. How'd you guys feel about that? How'd you feel about it, Ken? And just the Bears season coming to an
end? Because I know her, I won't use what I want to say and say your mama, D, because you have a fantastic family. But fuck you, D. And I'm happy he did. I know he was I'm happy this is my dude. This is why he's my dude. Yeah, it was your time to take your shot and you took it. That's my former co-host, one of the closest friends I have. Same closest friends with Joe. Anyway, back to this now.
He's right there, by the way. The comment,
Patty.
you see it?
Hey, Patty.
The tide is down to a trickle.
He didn't even take the thing. He didn't take that shot in the text thread, but I love it. It's that's why that's my guy. That's why that's my guy. All right. So the last game, to get back on track. No more Alabama stuff for the most part. Get back on track. The last game was shocking, to be honest with you. I've been kind of decent. So I partake in an article with our Bears beat reporter Alex Shapiro and Josh Schrock, our insider, where we predict the Bears games on Fridays, right? And I usually have to get on myself because, like, for instance, the game before that, I had them beating, I think it was Atlanta. I had them winning. I was gonna go 37 like 17, but I went 30-17 or something like that. And I was mad because I was like, man, you just gotta do you, right? So that game, I thought with the way the Bears defense had been playing and how many turnovers they were generating, I thought they'd at least get 3 turnovers that game, and how many more offensive opportunities it has provided to them. So the fact that, but again, Jalen being out really affected Jalen Johnson being out affected that game dramatically. And how also though you're seeing how Matt LaFleur took apart that D line and the Montez Sweat effect, and that's something you have to take care of that in a draft for free agency where you got to get them some more help, and you got to try to hold on to Justin Jones just for depth. But getting to the game, I was like, shit, you telling me they got another one? Right? Like that's honestly, I'm like, this is no, not this again, right? Mm-hmm. And for weeks prior to now, the national narrative is, look, he's done some stuff like A-Rod. For weeks, I've been wanting to talk about that because at times I'm like, man, why is he throwing off his damn back foot so much, right? But he's doing it accurately. Them speaking of Jordan Love, of course, I thought the Bears, how they were playing, were going to beat the Pack. The Pack showed up and showed out, and of course, it's difficult to get wins in Lambeau. But yeah, I was disappointed that the defense didn't perform the way that it had performed in the past. I was disappointed in the offense, even though the offensive line had so many injuries. It was Tevin Jenkins' worst game,
ever, maybe ever.
Yes, the worst Tevin Jenkins game. And I'm pro Tevin Jenkins. That was terrible, his game. So you didn't have nothing really going for you when it came to the offensive line. So I want to get on Getsy for the amount of passes that were thrown, but also I know they couldn't protect Justin with how bad the injuries that took to the line. Dan Feeney, I can't even get mad at Dan Feeney. He's not getting snaps, but the exchange was messed up. You see how many ticks Justin was off because the ball was high or low. Yeah, I thought they should have won that game, and I was disappointed. But I know you can't look at that game and say, well, we got to do this because of this one game, and that they were probably going to hold on. We all knew they were probably going to hold on to Matt Eberflus. We all dreamed big dreams. But still, we kind of got what we wanted. But that's how I felt about the game, so.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, Ken. It's one of those things where, especially that day, I was like, man, 325 could not get here any sooner. Had a little, they have that hope, but then of course it comes down real quick. But Sean, how about you? What were your feelings on the game overall?
I was pissed. I was really pissed. And I know this sounds stupid, But I'm thinking, like, was Getsy really a plant? Was he you know, because I'm looking at this, you know, and I'm looking at this because I'm sitting there with my guy, and we talk football at a high level because he was my fullback. I was a best friend in his wedding, the whole nine. And I'm like, where are the slants?
Mm-hmm.
Why they just went in motion, showing you, and they showed you as man, and you have hitches run. How the hell? Why are you running hitches when they're in man? Like it doesn't. So Justin's not allowed to audible if that's the case, because anybody knows if they're in man, you can't run a hitch. It's like a 2-3 yard step until you turn around. They're in man, you can't run a hitch. There are so many different things, and then the game plan was off. And people were, everyone talks about Justin Fields holding the ball too long and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, but it's the game plan. Like, people don't get it. Like, you're running five-step drops, and then Brian Baldinger from the NFL Network, or he did it perfectly. He showed him, like, because this is what I see, but he said a lot more eloquently than I did. Like, he had guys running into a zone. Like, Justin's at the top of his drop, and guys are just getting into, it was off. The route was off, with the drop back was off. Like, these are things that most people don't get, but I do, because being a coach, like, not working right, and it really bugged me. So I was really upset. And the offensive line, Ken, as you said, was hurt, was jacked up. Nate Davis went out, so that was jacked up. You got Feeney center, and you got Tevin Jenkins' worst game. That middle three, terrible. All right, terrible, the worst. And you can't have any penetration. In the middle three are your run game. Okay, and God forbid you get any penetration, which they did all day. Justin Fields can't throw. And the time that Justin Fields had a receiver, he couldn't throw because he was being pressured. So I was really pissed at that. I was really pissed that they didn't run the ball. I wanted them to run the ball more, but then you want to run the ball more with guys who aren't first teams. Like, so it was frustrating. Jalen Johnson was out, and hey, I ain't mad at Green Bay. They wouldn't pick down Terrell Smith. I would have. The rookie, a rookie who didn't get a lot of time, pick on him, and they did. So Green Bay came out with a good game plan. The Bears didn't. Okay, I'm glad I don't have to mention that dude's name to who called plays for us the last 2 years, because there was so many different things that were wrong with that, and it just really bugged the hell out of me. That like this is the game plan you came up with. This is the game plan you came up with when you understand all that's on the line. Even your job was on the line. I was livid. And here's the thing: we still had a chance to win. We still, and it wasn't, and we kept it close. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't feel that one play. I didn't feel that, oh, okay, here we go. That's 8 points felt like 28 points to me. And I'm like, it's still only a one score. You could miss a tackle, blah, blah, blah. And we can go hit. Then we still had to get, you know what I mean? So I was really upset with the game plan, really upset with the defense. The defense really didn't show up because they just ran the ball down our throats. I could see picking on Terrell Smith. He's a rookie. But man, the defense, that D line, that front seven, $111, that really hurt. That hurt the number one rushing defense in the NFL. And you got torched. So yeah, I was not happy. I was not a happy camper. Trust me, I didn't want to hear from any of my Green Bay Packer fan friends, because I might have lost some friendships. So I just didn't even talk to nobody, and I was not happy. I would have really said something stupid. So,
what about you, Joe?
You know what? I was, like Ken and Sean said before me, I was very disappointed in the outcome of the game. And the week prior, prior to the game, it was a Thursday. I predicted them to win, 30-17 too, on this show. I kind of felt like the Bears were on the upswing. They were playing with a lot of emotion, a lot of energy. You could tell that they were playing for each other. And I thought that was going to matter a little bit more coming into that game against Green Bay. Like you said, I've said it several times before. I feel like Getsy, was out to sabotage the Bears. It kind of felt like that with the way he called plays, and I didn't understand, why he wouldn't make the adjustments that he needed to make to be successful. In that game, we saw how valuable Jalen Johnson is to the Bears team, and what it allows them to do, and being able to pressure when you can lock down and play man. And I think, I think Eberflus kind of relied on the zone too much and giving, those receivers a little bit too much space. I think Brisker mentioned it as well on the score. He was talking to Dan and Lawrence that he felt like they could have played a little bit tighter coverage. Even with how bad it seemed like we're talking about this game, they still had the opportunity to win. The bright spot for me was Tyreek Stevenson and those 2 plays that he made in that 2-minute drill that last before the half. Was stopping the momentum. And for me, it seemed like he was the only guy on that defense that came ready to play. And he really showed some better, veteran, skill right there with knowing the situation and being able to act on it. So I thought he was a bright spot. One of the things that I was mind-boggling to me is when the game came down in the last seconds, we had pinned them deep in their zone. They just tried to run the ball. Aaron Jones barely got out the end zone, and I was hoping they would send pressure, and they didn't. They dropped back in the zone and they let them get a big 15-yard completion, and that was the game for me. They had an opportunity to win that game, and I kind of felt like Eberflus kind of sold his team a little bit. I think he should have went after them. I think it would have made a big difference in that game. But it is what it is. Jordan Love, looks the part, but we didn't do the things necessary to kind of take his strengths away. Offensively, I felt, like DJ Moore said, there could have been a little bit more explosive plays. But when you mentioned, the injuries in the offensive line, and the route concepts and the way the play calling was just horrible. I felt like there were some instances maybe we could have ran Justin a little bit more just to make them, back off a little bit. I saw a few times that when they were running that, that run action where he would give the ball. I felt there was a couple times that, the end was biting and taking the running back where Justin could get out the other side. But, all in all, it was a big disappointment.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where you watch those games, the Bears-Packers games, and the Packers just execute everything to a T. What it looks like, and like all their running plays, they get to the first down, and the Bears just can't seem to get anything going. It's just never-ending story, and that's why they've taken us down 10 straight games. But now to the bigger elephant in the room, from today. Is of course the Bears are keeping Matt Eberflus, firing offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, along with 4 other offensive assistants. Most reactions I've seen have been positive ones in the sense of Luke Getsy being gone, right? But on the Matt Eberflus side of things, that's the one thing where I've seen mixed reactions there. Because I know from my perspective, I assumed maybe they'd keep him as a defensive coordinator, if anything at all. But it looks like they're going to ride with him as a head coach in general. But what were you guys?
He's going to take a demotion. He's going to take a demotion. And let somebody else go in his office. Like, no, I'll go DC someplace else. So nobody's ever gonna be like,
no, that's never happened.
From head coach.
I was like, hey,
in the same organization, that's not happening.
No. Unless there's no more jobs.
I was like, you know what? The Bears is just they do stuff so wild. I was like, would you be surprised the Bears of all organizations do? But anyway, Ken, what were your initial thoughts on the Bears letting go of Luke Getsy as we're all celebrating that? But then also your reaction to the Matt Eberflus news as well.
All right, so it's messed up because one, letting go of Luke Getsy, and we can play around with this if we want to, may tell us what's going to happen to Justin. And I know Sean to come in and be like, no, you still had to let him go. But the thing is, the uniformity that they perhaps could have grown in the verbiage and what they were doing. Not to say maybe they are, and it seemed like during that conversation that I think you should hold on. I think you should see what the best outcome is between drafting another quarterback and Justin. I'm team Justin. I want what's best for Justin to get the Bears, basically, because I don't trust them. But anyway, Flus, my thought, and this is my thing with Matt Eberflus. If you couldn't get Jim Harbaugh, if you couldn't get Bill Belichick, Ben Johnson, I know you have to look at, he has to learn to be a head coach, so that's a tier lower. If you couldn't necessarily get those guys, and again, we didn't know Pete Carroll was going to be out in the streets, then I get why they did it, but I wonder how diligent they were with really, because you heard Ryan Poles talk about we didn't reach out to Harbaugh. Yeah, you didn't. You had to back channels people. So, like, we're not dumb. Of course, you have to have deniable plausibility. I hope you listen. I'm put like this, and I could be wrong. I hope you found out if he wanted to come back here. All right, like I hope you did your due diligence just to see, so he could say, "Nah, I'm good. I'm either staying here or I'm going to the West Coast." You know what I'm saying, or Nevada. I thought the Bears could do better. I think. And I know there's some creative things he did with the DBs and the linebackers, but he's running a cover 2, 4-3 defense. It's not that difficult. You know what I'm saying? This isn't prime Bill Belichick coming up with different defensive schemes for every team every other week. But he did a great job. And this, I'll tell you another thing. He did a great job taking over the defense. But see, this is my issue. I feel like if Alan Williams was still here, and that was what he didn't fire Alan Williams. We don't know what happened with Alan Williams. But I feel like and this is the crazy part, Alan Williams was going to affect your livelihood. You weren't going to tell him to do the things that you know to do. You were going to let him have complete control over something you specialize in, and he works for you. Because at one point, if my job's on the line, I'm like, yo, do this. You keep doing that, I'm like, yo, they're going to fire us, and push come to shove, I'm going to get rid of your ass because I'm not going to get another chance to be a head coach. So a lot of times I feel like if Alan Williams was still here, we wouldn't have seen some of the changes outside of perhaps bringing in Montez Sweat, which still the question, it's a question I've never asked. I don't even know if they would have gotten Sweat if Fluke's ass wasn't on the line, because they had to do something to save Fluke's. They had to, right? Like, so if they were just looking at it as, well, it's Alan Williams' defense, would they have still made the deal? And I'm not saying they wouldn't have, but those questions still have a fear in my heart of, are they going to have to learn how to do everything again? Because, again, it's a small sample size, but under Matt Eberflus as the CEO, because we want to absolve him of what happens on the offensive side, he still tells Luke Getsy to go for this. Dude, listen, run the ball more. He says he's the CEO, right? So you're still giving, and he says he sits in the room with the quarterbacks in the offense because he believes he can bring valuable information being a defensive specialist, right? So we can't absolve him from the offense. That's what he said. He's a CEO, and he's on both sides. His offense failed. It failed Justin. It failed the team. And there's times where, as a head coach, you have the call. Forget whoever the OC is. So, I mean, for me, I can see why they did it. It wasn't my preference. I would have moved perhaps off of him. But I get that perhaps they have a guy. I'm not saying, like, I was a Matt Eberflus dude, but this year was like, nah, son. Like, I can't rock with you. But that's how I feel, so.
No, yeah, I agree with that. And Joe, from your perspective as well, like, what did you feel about it when the news broke, and how do you feel about the Eberflus and all that in general?
You know what, I kind of felt like the whole time this is where the Bears were going to head, is, retaining Matt Eberflus and firing Getsy. It just kind of felt, once that defense turned around, and they started generating those turnovers, right around the Montez Sweat trade, that it was a good possibility that Matt Eberflus would have got back, would come back. Ken raises a good point. Had Alan Williams not resigned, would we have seen this from this defense? Because the way that Alan Williams was calling the game was horrible. And he clearly wasn't calling the defense to his players' strengths.
Joe, I apologize. I don't mean to cut you off, but I haven't talked to Nomad in a long time. So, Nomad, if you're going to go with what happened and it's going to rip the locker room apart, are you going to say the same if they move off of Justin Fields? Please continue, Joe. I apologize for interrupting.
No problem. But no, he wasn't calling. Alan Williams wasn't calling the defense to the strength of his players, and Matt Eberflus, having success, and with Indy, and coming in, he was doing the things necessary to get the defense back on track. And I don't think can you raise a good, like I said, you raised a good point. I don't think it would have happened if Alan Williams was still here, and that's a problem. I feel like, Matt Eberflus could have been more authoritative for what he wanted to happen with his offense, and he kind of just laid back and, let, Getsy, ruin the quarterback and ruin the development, of the rest of his team. And so that's on Matt Eberflus. For me, I think, Justin is resilient. It has a thick enough skin not to be affected long term. But, if you're going to keep Justin, it's imperative that you get some more playmakers around him and get a guy in here that's going to, tailor the offense around him and his skill set. And, I think that's what, good teams do. They get, good coaches do. They adjust their scheme to fit the talent of their players and to win each and every Sunday. I don't think, traditionally the Bears have been able to do that. And so I think it's a little bit worrisome that we're going down this road again, because we've seen it, time and time again with Bears coaches and getting new offensive coordinators. And, we've seen this, we've been through this before. So when you see this happening, it gives some concern. I do think, though, that keeping Matt Eberflus gives the Bears the best chance of being a winning and successful team next season, because that team, he was able to keep the team together. They do play hard for him. And I do think they believe in what's happening, as far as, the development and, saying and being around each other. So I think this was a move and, keeping that progress going forward. So we'll see what happens.
Here's the thing, man. After watching that type of that nonsense, I need a guy who's smart. And I'm not saying he's stupid. I'm saying he's very inexperienced. Okay. All right. Because the things that I was watching, and this is higher level football, is the route concepts, is the marrying of the routes with the drop, with the quarterback drop and the protection. These are all things that really bothered me. Okay. The lack of running plays that work. Okay. He's running remember the Green Bay offense. How many times, I know I've said this a trillion times, how many times have we seen Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams running free on us every single? How long did Jordy Nelson play for Green Bay? It didn't matter, because every single freaking game, twice a year, he's wide open. Every single game. Randall Cobb, same thing. Well, guess what? Those are the concepts that he brought here. So why did we finally get the crossing route to the DJ Moore, which is beautiful.
To DJ.
Beautiful, beautiful formation. Oh my God, beautiful. Okay, beautiful formation, beautiful execution, and we don't run it again. And I understand you don't want it. You can run it in different formations. Like, there's so many different things you can do. You can run, they put him in motion, boom, same thing. Have him cut underneath everybody. Like, those things really bothered me. And maybe he could grow, possible. Okay. But I don't trust it anymore. Not after 2 years. Not after the fact that I don't think he was a detail-oriented guy. Because what have I told you before? When things happen on the field, they're either coached or they're allowed. Okay? And Justin was allowed to saunter back in his drop back. This is a lot of West Coast concepts. Everything West Coast is timing. And that's footwork. That is footwork. That's 1, 2, 3, throw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hop, throw. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? Everything, and he allowed Justin to continue to do that, and that bothered me. That bugged me. Like, you. And there's an old saying in coaching: if you take care of the little things, there are no big things. And he wasn't detail oriented. And to me, to move forward with that, again, he's just inexperienced in it. He's just inexperienced. Now, everyone talks about Jordan Love. You know what? He's in the same system for 3 years. People talk about continuity. He had to sit for 2. He had to sit. He got to sit. He had the opportunity to sit. He had the misfortune to sit. Whatever the hell you want to call it. He sat for 2 years and watched LaFleur's offense being run by a future Hall of Famer. But not the fact, I don't care if it's Aaron Rodgers. The fact that you still got to study this for 2 years, And then he comes in, and then you wonder, like, how are they doing it? Because he got to sit for 2 years. And then he got to work with these receivers last year a little bit. And now they're in the system this year. It's their second year in the system. They ain't learning the system anymore. They know it. So all of a sudden, you got this quarterback who's been this for 2 years behind. This is his third year now in the system. And you got the receivers who, remember, Aaron Rodgers was bringing them to the carpet. Remember, it's like, I don't know about the rookies because Christian Watson dropped a touchdown pass, first play of the season last year. And, Rodgers got on him. Man, these dudes grew up. There's a lot of change from year 1 to year 2. Green Bay's got it. I don't think he's a phenomenal quarterback. I think he's really good in this system. And guess what? His system is going to be very, very successful because he's got it down. He had a 2-year
3, Sean. Sean, 3 years.
He sat
before
3?
He started. 3. I think that I do that sometimes myself. He got drafted in 2020.
20, 21, 22. Damn, really? Oh, so they had, because that's right, because they were talking about.
Because remember how they had to keep bringing Aaron Rodgers back. So first then last year was looking like Nicolas Cage, walking like it was always the drama of that MFer, right? But just to point it out, just to provide clarity,
I got you.
But great. You everything, and that's it's one of the reasons why you my guy. Just to get that from you, and especially on the X's and O aspect of it. But he didn't. The thing is, this was the problem with Luke Getsy in the first place. He never really called plays outside of a year in college.
No, you're right.
And you can't look. I know that we live in a world now where everyone from these trees that are offensive guys are calling their own plays. So their old coordinators don't get the same opportunities. You got McDaniels, at least he got input on the running plays with San Francisco. But the thought that let's just go and pluck Luke Getsy was always a fear. But the crazy part, and this is one of the debates me and Sean will always go back and forth on, it has nothing to do with Luke Getsy. It's the operating in fear, because I used to tell Sean this when people used to be like, I don't know if I want Luke Getsy. Sean, you remember this? I don't know if I want Luke Getsy because he may leave in a year. And I'll be like, so that means shit was working then. Like, stop being afraid. The shit was working. And it didn't even work. Initially, just to jump in real quick, it goes back to Eberflus. If Eberflus told us I'm a defensive genius, basically, right? So if you see the guy that's running your offense and you know how to break offenses down, why didn't you step in and change things?
Do something.
Like, that's where it's like, what? So I'm supposed to be like, it's cool because you were forced to be the defensive coordinator because your buddy that you brought with you did Lord knows what in the office for all we know?
And you know what that lets me to believe, Ken? It lets me to believe that, and this is what I truly believe, is the politics that's involved in football that fans don't think about, right? Because it might have been Eberflus's time, and it might have been Luke Getsy's time. Because remember, that offense didn't work in Denver. All right, that's a difficult offense to figure out.
Hackett got his ass fired
before the season was over in year 1.
Right.
So you're working with a Super Bowl winning quarterback and a Pro Bowl receiver in Cortland Sutton, and they couldn't get that to work. Now might have been too much of a diva, but nonetheless, it's still talented. So to have a guy who hasn't called plays, he was only the quarterback coach in Green Bay. He wasn't even the offensive coordinator. That was Hackett.
Right.
He was only the quarterback guy, and to jump over offensive coordinator, even if it was just in title alone, like Hackett was, even if it was just in title alone, at least get that step. And to have him jump that far, man, that's asking a lot. That's asking a whole hell of a lot of a dude. And then you're asking him to make adjustments. And like we talked about with Eberflus, there's a big difference when you're an assistant coach. You might even be a D coordinator. Big difference being a D coordinator and being a head coach. That spotlight, those press conferences, those reporters, that's a whole different. They only talk to you once a week. Talk to you once a week. Every day as a head coach, you got to do it. So when you jump from quarterback coach to offensive coordinator,
head coach,
man, that and you bypass offensive coordinator, that pressure is a lot. It's like getting skipped a grade. You know what I mean? You got double promoted. Like, yeah, that's tough.
Everybody can't be rookies, man. You can't have a rookie GM, a rookie head coach and rookie coordinators.
Yes.
Everyone can't be a rookie like that. You're going too far because that tells us there's going to be more stumbles than usual because everyone's learning on the job. Like so that's where it was like, look, I'm not even the biggest, like, and this isn't a knock on him. I'm not like the biggest Jim Caldwell guy. He should have been here. You know what I'm saying? Yes. I get if Eberflus, because this was a thing that we go back in conversations we've had in the past. I think I've had it with all three of you gentlemen. You always thought Eberflus was going to hasten the pace of the defense because that was the side of the ball. So it was like, okay, we can spend more money on the offense because our guy's a defensive coordinator, so he should be able to pull that along. They were rebuilding last year and they traded a lot of the defensive players. So I understand that, but the players didn't quit on him to the last game of the season, and I'm not even taking that as a knock. It was a getaway game. They stayed with him or whatever. But you sat there and you had the offensive coordinator have to relearn how to be the best running team in the NFL, have to relearn the things that you unlocked with Justin Fields last year. What, like, because you're trying to be a stickler to a system that you knew that Matt LaFleur was running. But really, and this is the kicker even more, Sean, with what you were saying. Let's not forget during the pandemic, Aaron Rodgers said, man, me and Matt LaFleur got down and basically I ripped stuff out of the playbook that I didn't like.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even the entire offense, really. It was Aaron Rodgers' preferences that they were running in Green Bay. It wasn't strictly this Sean McVay shit.
Because they were going head-to-head, remember? They were head-to-head.
We keep forgetting that this is
Rodgers.
Dog, how many times do we say, how many times do we think, man, Aaron Rodgers, get the fuck out of shotgun, all right? Like, it was like, dude, no, because the running, the shotgun runs in this offense and a lot of NFL offenses,
3rd and 1, 4th and 1,
are maddening. All right, maddening. All right, but just that, and you thought Luke Getsy, like you wasted Justin Fields' future on Luke Getsy. It was wasted. He wasted his opportunity here in Chicago on Luke Getsy. Because if you brought someone in who wasn't learning,
it ain't over.
I was about to say something I don't even want to say on some shit
like that. I say this. Hey, thank you guys from War Media, man. I do appreciate y'all for being gracious enough to have me in here, man. I don't know you guys by name, but I appreciate you guys for being.
He don't even know y'all by name.
Well, hey, man. Hey, man.
What the hell is he doing in this?
Because I see Ken Davis talking about John Harbaugh in my hand.
Let me introduce, for everybody who doesn't know, this is Nomad for the Nomad Network. Nomad's been on my show plenty of times. I've been on his network plenty of times. And,
I've only been on once because I told him the offensive line needed more depth, and he never brought me back, Sean.
No, I didn't bring you back. I'm gonna tell you why I didn't.
Y'all was so bad. So Nomad, did the offensive line need the depth that I was talking about earlier before the season started?
Hey, what we talking about? You talking about why I didn't bring you back? I didn't bring you back.
I'm just playing. Nomad, I'm just playing.
I know, but I didn't bring you back because Josh and Alex were the one going to the training camp.
Oh,
you didn't go out there.
I apologize for not doing
that's
enough.
Why I was coming in to him.
I apologize. I'll do better next year for you,
man. That's what you get, running your mouth all the time, man.
No, it's Joe ass super fanning in this bitch.
No, man, but hey, look, I came in here. I came in on the butt end of a conversation Ken was having about wanting Harbaugh here. Now, Ken was making a point, and I think I only got part of the conversation when he was making a point that we should have hired Jim Harbaugh. I feel differently about that, and I can tell you why. But am I right? Did you say that we should hire Harbaugh and just scrap everything we was doing and just the hell with what gains we were making? Just put a new coach that runs a 3-4. He's never been in a system that didn't run a 3-4 his whole career. We have 4-3 personnel that is starting to do well. We got a locker room that's tied together that really wants to keep everything, tacked up and together. We got a situation that even though we don't like what everything that you saw Eberflus do, especially recently.
But that could be one of the reasons they didn't hire him, because I truly think that they waited and they talked to him. I truly think that they said, hey, you're done in Michigan. All right, what's your what's the temperature? You trying to come? So he's like, all right, well, I probably want this, this, and this. What about the defense? I got to run a 3-4. Well, we got 4-3 personnel. I think that could have been the situation.
And that's why they didn't have
the press conference on Monday. So they had it because they're probably talking. Again, I don't have this. This is not confirmed. I'm saying this is what I'm thinking. They're talking to him, and finally, once they got it confirmed, like, okay, either you want too much control or you don't want to change it. You want to go back to a 3-4. We got the different personnel. Okay, we're going to move on from you. That's why I truly think that they didn't. That's why they had the press conference today, and that's why I think they stayed with Eberflus and they didn't hire Harbaugh because he wants they couldn't meet. They couldn't meet in the middle.
Continuity.
That's my point. That was no. It wasn't continuity as much as what he wanted. You weren't going to do. Like now that's a step too far with continuity. Like of course, I'm not saying when you sign Montez Sweat to that type of contract that you can make him an outside linebacker edge rusher at this point of his career. No, I'm not saying that, no, man. But the point is, who's the better coach? You act as if John Harbaugh couldn't run a 4-3. I mean, he's an offensive coach. But also, I'll give you this point, no, man. So even more of what I was saying earlier. So if you're saying that John Harbaugh, he's a 3-4 coach, that's the way it is. What you're telling me is that John Harbaugh has influence on both the offense and the defense, correct? But Matt Eberflus, you're not going to judge him off of what the offense did this season and just say this for no, I can get someone to run this defense. I'm not afraid of that. I can find me a cover 2 defensive coordinator. The problem is they have to and this is a small sample size, it's 2 seasons. They have to relearn everything. Like there's no connection from the season prior. Now perhaps that will change, but if I'm going off of what you've given me so far, that's a red flag that I'm alerted to. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the same thing applies when I said Bill Belichick. I know Bill Belichick wants to run 3-4 hybrid and do a lot of different things like that. I get that. But also, if you're telling me, and this is the thing here, we settle. We're scared. Like, man, we can't do that. No. And that's what we're scared of. Okay, I'm in a bad relationship, but I know the devil that I know. That's a Chicago's fans relationship with
Ken. The guy just came off of a teardown, man. He just came off of a teardown. And they gave him 2 pieces that he asked for in the offseason. 2 pieces. Hold on, particular pieces that he asked for. I need a hand in the dirt edge rusher that's dominant off the edge. He gave him Montez Sweat. But in the offseason, he gave him who is not a 3-4 linebacker in any stretch. They spent money on these guys, Ken. They spent money on these guys. They've got 4-3 personnel. Talking about Tremaine Edmonds, bro.
You think Tremaine Edmonds can't play in a 3-4?
No, man, no. He's a 4-3 middle linebacker. No, you can't turn a turnip into a lemon, man. That's just the way it is. We have 4-3 personnel, and when you consider all of those things and some of the draft capital we spent up front, but all those kind of things. Hold on, now the secondary players,
you're right. I'll let you go.
Secondary players can play in any system. Now the linemen that they brought in, the draft capital that they spent in draft to get those linemen that they got, that's D lineman. That's 4-3 personnel. The edge rusher, the linebacker, that's 4-3 personnel.
That's not my argument. No, man, that's not my argument. You're parsing this with that's not the argument that I'm making. I'm making with Harbaugh that I still would have been running 4-3 personnel. And as Sean put it, if he didn't want to run it, then I understand why they didn't pick him up. That's the point. But you're saying, but how can you tell me this? Just because they're running a 4-3, they had to stick with Matt Eberflus. That's what you're saying?
No, you can not take Jim Harbaugh because he does not understand the concepts of a 4-3.
But no, he could have hired someone to do. So he couldn't hire someone that knows how to do that with all the connections he has in the NFL.
There's other guys out there. They like what they have.
So, but you're telling me you would rather not have a proven better coach who went to 3 NFC championships and a Super Bowl and took Michigan. All right, Michigan ain't been good since we was kids. Michigan to the national championship because the fear that maybe, something may happen with, and your points are valid, but I'm sure they would find someone to run the defense. He's an offensive guy. He's a quarterback. I don't get the argument that, man, just forget him, forget Harbaugh, because I don't think it's as blunt in my opinion.
And I think the part that you leaving out now, you making it sound in your argument, it sounds like, hey, just pick up the phone. It's Jim Harbaugh. Hey, you want to come over here and coach Chicago? Done. We're gonna give you a contract. What is he asking for? What the hell is he want?
That's not at all what I said. I just said I agree with Sean. No. I just said I agree with what Sean said. No. I said my opinion was Sean's opinion, which is, are you gonna do this? If not, we're moving away from you. That's all I said. I said when Sean said it that I agree with. That's how I viewed it. That Harbaugh was the media has told us for 2 days they've been talking about if they're gonna keep Flus or not. And if we all think Ryan Poles isn't an idiot, he better have put out feelers through whatever connections he has to see who wants this job before telling Flus you keep this job. No, I didn't say that. I was saying you have to do your due diligence.
So because he didn't reach out to him, you think he didn't? That's a misstep on his part, right?
Yeah, I would think if you run a business and there are people who are great at the business that you run, and you don't reach out to see when your guy who you have in charge of your business hasn't lived up to the level that you expect, you don't see if those people perhaps may have interest, but as a caveat, you still point out, hey, but if you come here, this is what it's going to be. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not against your point. My thing is, if you're telling me someone who's done it before and done it well, and he's willing to be like, yo, I'll run that 4-3 for y'all. Just let me do whatever I want to come. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, Ken. All right, this is my only reaction to it. I'm not Ken Davis. I don't have NBC Sports Chicago connections, but I do know a few people. The word that got back to me, and I did check around. This was before we got Flus, and it was up in the air about who we were going to get. And this is before I even put a podcast out there, and I was just feeling around, just trying to see the temperature in the landscape. I was checking around. I do know a few people, and the word was that this guy wanted total
control.
Power. Yeah, total control inside the household. That means the draft. That means college person. He wanted it all. He wanted that word. I'm not saying.
And he should have, because I'm gonna tell you,
going to get somebody.
Let me tell you this.
Get drunk on that kind of power, man.
It's not even that. I'm gonna tell you this. And this is another reason why I wanted Jim Harbaugh. If you look at how quickly Pete Carroll turned around the Seattle Seahawks, do you know one of the major reasons he was able to do that? Because he was recruiting these kids out of high school for a decade. So yes, I want him in a room talking about these kids in college that even the people that are in that room haven't talked, discussed, and been with those kids like someone who's done it at elite level as Jim Harbaugh has done it. So yes, I want him to have some detail in the draft because he's been recruiting these kids. So yeah, I had no problem with that.
He's getting total. He's gonna
get it where he's getting. If you're the man, if you're the man, think about it. Andy Reid, we don't think about it. Man, Andy Reid runs Kansas City, right? Like he picked the general manager. Like that, it's not that you want someone to do the day-to-day job of general manager, because we know you can't. We see with Belichick, you can't do both. We seen it at times. Majority Holmgren in Seattle, you can't do both. But if you're telling me you're that guy, now I'll tell you this: I wouldn't have given it to Belichick, but I would have brought his ass in. All right. But yes, if someone has been in college at the elite level of college, recruiting high school kids, and they know kids on every level because they've been doing it, then yes, I want them in that draft room because they know more than a lot of us may know about it, because they've been fighting these wars with these kids while they've been in college.
So, Ken, in your mind, there's a right and a wrong, and I just got through doing this.
No, that's not.
Hold up, man. You got to let me.
Sorry, Harbaugh. I apologize. No,
there's a right and a wrong way to go about the process to you, and that process should look like X, Y, Z, right? However, we on the outside, and this is just me understanding my position as who I am, and I'm not a trained professional at that aspect of it. I'm an ex-football player, but I'm not trained at what that looks like in an administrative office in somebody's building. And so they have their process, and their process might look like XYZ. They, I'm sure, did due diligence and conversation, but decided that the brain trust probably said, you know what? It polls, if this is probably Kevin Warren, you know what? I got some different thoughts about how you're doing this, but you've been a hell of a good GM. You've been making some good decisions, some really good draft picks, and all of that kind of stuff. You add all that stuff up, and Kevin Warren is probably the guy that probably has some sway in that conversation. He probably said, you know what? I trust you, Ryan, and I trust him. And I do trust what he's been doing thus far. And if he had enough confidence in Flus, see, Flus is he's not a young coach, but he's a young head coach. And he's learning. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is you swing and you miss. You make some decisions that you learn to really you resent some of the decisions that you make. And I guarantee you there was film studies that were had in that brain trust. Like, hey, Matt, why are we up 17 here at this point in the clock at the end of the game, and they are able to come all the way back and beat you? Those conversations had to be had. I think the taste in everybody's mouth from the Green Bay loss, because it's such an emotional game, I think is kind of swaying everybody's thinking. And people are stuck with that, and they're jumping to conclusions as to why this is a bad choice for Ryan Poles right now. And I beg to differ. I think you give that man a chance. If you trust Ryan Poles, trust his decision making right now. And that's my argument.
Okay. So I'll say this for your argument.
Go ahead. Your closing argument. Can go ahead.
I think that, of course, Ryan Poles wouldn't want to give up his authority, but let's also remember, as Big Ten commissioner, Harbaugh and Kevin Warren didn't get along.
I heard about that.
So what you're saying even more is, yeah, Kevin Warren doesn't even want to deal with the fact that there could be a better coach out there, but I don't like that motherfucker. And I understand Ryan Poles wanting to hold on to his power, but that doesn't mean it's the best for the Bears. That's just where ownership comes in. It's like, I got to do what's best for me. Now, I don't care about the Packers game as far as retaining Flus. That didn't sway me either way. We all knew going into it that Flus was going to be the head coach. But I feel like, and I want you to remember this, Nomad, there's a chance, because of the decisions that he's made by letting Luke Getsy do what he did, that the quarterback that we all love may not be retained here while you're campaigning for Matt Eberflus. That's it. That's all. And look, it's all love. It's all love.
You already did it, man. I'm going to tell you why you're wrong in a big way. And look, Justin showed enough strides. He showed enough improvement. See, I'll tell you something that, is really nuanced, and when it comes to a football conversation, that if you ain't paying attention close enough, that you probably would have missed it. It took Justin pretty much a whole season for his feet to kind of get married in the West Coast offense to his rhythm and timing. Over something happened in those past last 3 or 4 games that I start to see. You could look at Justin and look at the timing of when he throws a ball, how he throws a ball, and the intent of his feet. In the West Coast offense, and I played in it when I was in college, even though I'm a DB, I had to learn the concept and what comes with it. If you want to be good, that's what you better do. And I'm watching his feet over time, and I kept saying game after game, his feet ain't there. His feet ain't there. And his feet were making him take off and run and do things that were really kind of uncoordinated looking. If you look at the game close enough and notice in the last 3 or 4 games, you start noticing he started making crisp, more sharp decisions when given time. He was dumping that ball off on time, putting it in running backs' hands and tight ends' hands. That's because he's just now starting to trust what his feet are telling him to do. And that's the key in the West Coast offense. Timing is everything. Everything needs to be 1, 2, 3, point, go.
So are you saying, Nomad? So you saying you're okay with that you would have wanted Getsy to stay? Because I wouldn't want him to stay, because that was the one thing that I've been harping on the whole time, is like his footwork. Like everything as a quarterback, and especially in that system, everything is footwork. And the fact that he wasn't detailed enough, the fact that for 2 years, like that should be the first thing. When you're a quarterback, don't worry about this. Don't worry about getting this throw. Don't worry about that throw. Don't worry about reading this thing. Don't worry about reading that guy. I need your footwork down. Period.
Yeah.
And he hadn't done that. Now, had he gotten better? Possibly, yeah. I would agree that some of his passes were a lot crisper, but also so let me ask. No, let me not expand it. So did you want Getsy to stay?
Absolutely not, and I'll tell you why. He couldn't adjust on the fly in live game situations. A coordinator needs to be instinctual. And that means you could have XYZ plan on your play sheet, right? Or you could be a guy sitting up there looking at a Denny's menu, man, and just reading all plays. And he didn't have the instincts to know that I don't care what I had planned, that ain't gonna work. I need to go to plan B. And so plan A was it, and that was all. And he was stuck with it, and so were the players. What I'm saying about Justin is I really do think with the right person in his ear and the right person tutoring him, I think he just started to turn that corner. The worst thing you can do right now is to let that dude go to somewhere else. The next thing you know, he's going to tear you apart. I think with the right coordinator and the right confidence you breathe into that young man, not only is he a leader, not only is he tough in crunch situations, this is Chicago, man. You got to be tough around here. You got to be tough. And all these quarterbacks that people talk about, oh, they're this, they're that, these are generational. I see generational arm talent. I don't see generational from toe to head. You know, inside, in between the ears, what's in your heart. Justin has everything Chicago needs. All you got to do is breathe confidence in that guy and put the right infrastructure and weaponry around him. He'll give you everything you ask for.
Well, I agree with you on that one. And because everyone look at all these quarterbacks. You give me if you can name me a quarterback that's good, that everyone think is good, or anyone think is the face of the NFL. You give me you name me a quarterback, I'll show you the guy behind him who's the reason that he is what he is. All right, because physically, there's no one who physically. There's nothing that any quarterback in the NFL can do that Justin can't physically. Okay, he just needs someone to coach him. There's a crazy idea, and I don't know if you saw the Pivot podcast with Mike Tomlin. He was like, coaches run away from coaching. Like, coach Justin, coach him. Okay, because sometimes when people say
Justin in particular,
no, he didn't say Justin in particular. No, he didn't. But I'm just using that as an example. Like, coach him. Like, he's got a special set of skills that have to be coached a little different. Like, especially with the reads, especially with getting the ball out a little late. You know, all that was, you know, with Getsy, that just wasn't tight. It wasn't efficient.
And Eberflus allowed it. And
Getsy's a stiff. Getsy's a stiff. He's a stiff that he doesn't know what it feels like to have a Lamborghini engine beneath his waist. He don't know what that feels like. You got to get.
But that's why I said it could have been his. That's where the politics comes in. That's where the politics comes in. I believe, you know, because sometimes when you're in that realm, it's your time. Okay. And sometimes people get promoted, their time becomes sooner than it really is their time. Sometimes their time comes later than it should have come. And I think Getsy's time came a lot sooner than it should have come because there's too many things schematically that he did that were just completely off.
But Eberflus allowed it.
He did, but it's not about Eberflus allowing it. It might be like, look, he's going to be here for 2 years. The politics is involved is ridiculous. And at some point, they're like, okay, well, we need to make a change.
But Sean, okay, hold on. Let me push back on that. You're the head coach. You know this dude doesn't know what he's doing, and you're not telling him this is what you must do. And what job, like what all of us have worked in the real world. Where does this happen? You're held accountable. They give you the warnings, and it's like, hey, I told you to do this. You get about what, 2 of them, 3 maybe, and then they fire your ass. Look, I'll say this. The problem here with everything that we're saying, and we need to come to grips with, because of Luke Getsy, we may lose Justin Fields. And like, what then what about this holding on to Matt Eberflus shit? Like, and that's not on Matt Eberflus. So that's just like, I'm like, I get what we want. The problem with this discussion is, particularly with any sports fan or not even fan. Let's just look at us being analysts. But still, we're fans, so we feel it and we love it. We want to hold on to what we're familiar with, right? Like I say, I'm team Justin. I want what's best for Justin, and I don't trust these mugs here in Chicago. But if you don't think Ryan Poles telling you he's going to wait to April, that MF traded that damn pick away 5 months, and I know it wasn't 5 months before the draft last year, right? And it's like, man, I'm holding on to this bad boy. It speaks volumes, but I'm not saying it in a way that means Justin's going to be gone, because that's what he should do, because you never know what you can do by making people fearful of they may take the quarterback that I want. FOMO. Yeah. So that, I mean, but I think the problem is we're giving Eberflus a pass on his failure as a CEO. He told us he was a CEO. So how are you going to tell me I run this? This is the shit I run. But then your shit don't work, and I'm supposed to be like, hey, whatever. And you were forced to be in the defensive coordinator. And if Alan Williams would have stayed in the position, we may not have even seen the different pressures from the defensive backs.
Can people get better, man?
No, but see, no matter, I'll say this, and it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. But sometimes we have this familiarity complex where I don't know what the other thing may be, so I want to stay with it. And with me, it has never worked for us here in Chicago.
And we also have a continuity problem here. We've gotten used to, and I know everybody on this show will agree with this. We've gotten used to these shit shows where every couple of years, when things ain't microwavable and coming out exactly the way we wanted them, you know, and every 2 years, it's like, okay, next thing you know, that whole pressure campaign comes again. We need to get rid of it, and nothing ever sticks. One thing I like about this situation is that continuity word, man. To me, being a locker room person, I still think like a locker room, man. That's important, because you got the health of your locker room. To me, that's the engine. That's the engine. If you running a whole franchise from the football operations all the way out onto the business aspects, but don't nothing click unless that locker room, that part where the players are, remains healthy. And there's something to say to that, man. Somebody had to stop that cycle, Ken, of people coming in here every few years and saying we need to change this out, and the same old shit happens. I think there's something to be said about maintaining, at least for a partial year, to see if Flus is the guy. If you put a veteran offensive coordinator, a veteran defensive coordinator who has aspirations of maybe becoming a head coach, if things don't work, you haven't committed yourself to Eberflus an extension yet. Hopefully they don't do that, and they bring in those coordinators, and if things don't go right,
what? All right, wait, hold on.
And you keep going.
Hopefully,
am I right?
Hopefully they didn't extend him, but yet you think someone wants to come here and be his offensive coordinator when he may only have a year? Yes. You said give him half a season. So this is what you're saying. So let's just say they retain Justin, or it doesn't even matter if they draft a quarterback. You're like, if Flus starts off for continuality, if Flus starts off and they have a bad year, toss him. So then Justin will be on his fourth offense, or the new quarterback will be on his second right out of being drafted. This is the problem. Let me finish. This is the problem with this situation, where that's why you probably needed to do something different, because I'm gonna say this. One, the only time the Bears, like, we could talk about other franchises, the only real time the Bears have been quick with the trigger was Trestman. John Fox served his purpose. They gave Dick Duran more time. They gave Lovey hella time, and I love Lovey, but it was time. All right, and I know we can have the debate over what happened since Lovey, but at the time, many times Lovey had missed the playoffs. It was time. But if you're talking about having the team work and having it be consistent and giving Flus, like, you damn near should have just gave Flus 2 years at a 2-year extension if this is what you were going to do, because whatever quarterback you're doing, you're putting him in a situation where he has to learn 2 different offenses depending how Flus executes. And no matter, if you think Flus should only get half a season next year, he should not be here.
Man, listen.
I'll tell you what's good. I'll tell you what. Don't be surprised if they do give him an extension. You know why? Because that'll give Because if you want to get a veteran offensive or offensive coordinator in here, okay, if you want to get a veteran offensive coordinator, you know, a Darrell Bevell, a Greg Roman, someone like that, just throwing names out. They're not going to want to come here for 1 year, and if for some reason it takes a little longer, then all of a sudden they're gone. They're finding a job on the street. They want security. You mentioned, you know, continuity. Well, there's nothing more continuous than giving the guy a 2-year extension. So as the quarterback, the coordinator's like, okay, well, he's got at least 2 years this year coming up in the next year where I can do my thing. I know my first year here is not going to be make or break. So don't be surprised if they do give Eberflus an extension, and you know people are going to go nuts, so go crazy. How can you give him? He sucks. Well, they're doing it because of the fact that you want good coordinators. You want veteran coordinators, and if you want to go get a veteran coordinators are going to come over and say, yeah, for 1 year, and all that is rest, especially offensive. All the development of Justin Fields is resting on me for 1 season, and you know what I mean. I think that, so don't be surprised, and watch how Bears Twitter goes nutso if they give him an extension.
Sean, watch where I go with this, and I'm talking directly to you. You know how coaches are. You know how coaches are from experience. Now you can look at it from that baseline. Everything you guys are saying is absolutely right. When you look at it from that frame, it looks like, hey, you better do certain things in order to make whoever you want to bring in here feel good about the job that they're accepting, right? That all sounds correct, and it is. Now look at it from this lens. You look at the Bears on tape, and you look at 3 particular games, and I'm going to keep saying this. The 2 Detroit games, they beat the hell out of them and let them get away with 1. These are top 5 teams, in my opinion. The Cleveland game, beat them pillar to post in their own house and let them get out of that game. Coaches, coaches are addicted to tape. And when they're considering coming to a team and looking at the prospects, is this team ascending? Is this team not? Is there some things in place that I really want to work with? When you look at it from how coaches look at stuff, you know that they look at tape probably a little too much. But when they start looking and evaluating the team and they see that shit on tape, you can best believe they want to attach themselves to that because they can see the ascension. And for no reason other than that, like, hey, man, they do. If they get the right people in this building, we can take this to the top. And look at my market value after that. I just attached myself to a winner, and now I could have been $220,000 a year guy to $2 to $3 to $5, $6, $7 million because I attached myself to a champion.
I hear your point, Nomad. But how much more comfortable would you be going into the situation knowing that the head coach just got it extended 2 years? So now you're like, I don't have to have Justin Fields be a 4,000-yard passer in 2024. He can be a 3,600-yard passer, and then we can you know what I'm saying? We can graduate to 4,000 the following year. You have time. They're expecting you, at least they're going to give you 2 years, probably 3. So
if you work this hard, you can be the next man up. If
I hear that I agree with you, because a lot of offensive coordinators, even defensive coordinators, a lot of offensive coordinators got that ego, but they also, a lot of times they're also realistic in the same sense that, like, man, if it doesn't work out, all right, if we don't get somebody to replace Darnell Mooney, if Darnell Mooney comes back and he has another crap year, or Tyler Scott doesn't develop, or you know what I mean, and we got one guy in DJ Moore and whoever we draft, all right, and they're not as productive as I want them to be, this job is still up. So that's why I'm saying I'm more than okay. I'm more than okay with giving Eberflus an extension if that means we're going to be able to draw on a Darrell Bevell. We're going to draw on a Greg Roman. We're going to draw in a quality offensive coordinator who says, I got a 3-year plan, and here is what this plan is going to do. Because you come in with a 1-year plan, great. But if it don't work, or something happens, someone gets injured, someone does this, someone does that, well, then guess what? He's done. So the 3-year plan, it's a lot more feasible, and it puts everybody at ease knowing you got time. And you know as well as all of us on here, as far as football goes, football's not done right now. Football is a year-long process. So he's got all this time to install. He's got all this time in year 1. He's got certain milestones he wants to reach. Year 2 or the next offseason, he's got milestones. It's a lot more comfortable. So I'm saying, don't be surprised if that is, but a veteran offensive coordinator who wants to come here will be a lot more at ease with an extension for the head coach. Like, all right, I could stay there for a minute.
Okay, I hold on, Ken. I'm gonna get up out of here because I see these. We on this. I appreciate you guys again for having me up in here. But I seen Ken Davis in here. I had to come in here with the judo chop.
Why? Why are you coming to judo chop? See, that's what I'm saying. What do you have against me? I've been pro nomad.
Sometimes you be talking and you don't be knowing, man. That's sometimes you don't
Really?
be knowing, man. Sometimes.
Really? Okay. I think you be talking.
My God, man, I love it,
a
man.
super fan. Whoa. Let me before you go. So it's you talk about and you disrespect me as far as talking and not knowing. But what happens? Let me finish. What happens if they remove Justin when you're talking about this locker room? How's that going to take place in the nomad world?
If they did that,
if they do that,
you just keep going, man. That's a choice.
I'm keep going because it's what you don't prefer when it's on the table though. You have to admit it's not on the table.
It's not my virtue. It's not my virtue. I would prefer them to keep Justin Fields.
That wasn't my question. You pointed out how the locker room. But no. Well, that's not what I'm asking you. You said with Eberflus that the locker room would be in turmoil if they moved off of him. So, and I'm saying that the same should apply to Justin Fields, correct?
Yes.
So then how would you apply that same thought pattern if they move off of Justin that you applied to keeping and retaining Matt Eberflus?
To me, it all marries together. It all marries together.
But they may do so. So I'm asking you then, does it still saying true? Because they may mess up the locker room because they think they have a better quarterback, or they may like the money moving forward on a rookie quarterback contract.
I think if you're gonna keep Eberflus, you keep the quarterback. And I think to move either one of them when you feel like you have an ascension going on with your team and in your locker room and the prospects of bringing in talent to add to it, I think that's ballhead stupid. I think you roll with what you got and believe in what you have. And
I resemble that remark. You watch it. I resemble that remark.
But that's not the question I'm asking.
I'm kind of confused, man, because you're asking.
This is what you said. You can't move off for Eberflus because of what it can do to the locker room.
I didn't say
that was your.
I didn't. Think
that's what you said.
No, I
said no. You said there would be locker room turmoil, and you can't do it because of that turmoil.
All I was doing was explaining why they made the decision. I'm here to explain the decision. I understand why they didn't go after Harbaugh. I understand why they kept Matt Eberflus, and I will understand why I seen enough on tape. I do have football eyes on me. I seen enough on tape to know that if you put the right infrastructure together, I think there was just things missing all year, whether it was been a coordinator, whether it had been some of the decision making. There's a lot missing this year, but the quarterback was not the problem, in my opinion. Other than the few turnovers that he had, the guy was making really good decisions. Now, if they chose to move on from him and bring a rookie quarterback into a team that's ascending, a team that feels good about what they have, I think that's counterclockwise to production and ascension. I think that's absolutely ridiculous in a thought. I don't think there's even a chance that unless they got some kind of crazy offer that we ain't never heard of in a trade for Justin Fields, I don't even think you put that on the table at all. I don't.
That's how you. All right. No, man. Have a good one. I appreciate you.
I'm finna get up out of here, guys. Hey, War Media, I appreciate you guys. Look forward to finding out who you guys are, man. I mean, I do really respect you guys' platform, and thank you for having me on here. Ken, I'll get you later, man. Don't even worry about it, man. I'm gonna have you on the show.
Don't go get me. You said I don't know shit. Go
I'm gonna get you, man. I'm gonna get you. Now, see, you said disrespect, man. I got too much love for you, man. Don't use that.
No, man. I'm gonna tell you this because we're cool. We got to be able to talk shit with one another.
We got to,
and
man.
You know that. So that's all it is. But I wish you the best. I wish the network the best. And I think also, let me say this too, for anybody that misconstrues this, it's okay to have a difference in opinion and have a discussion about it.
Just know I got nothing but love for you and appreciate what
and I got the same for you. No, man. Anybody ask me about you, I say I just don't know your face, but I trust you.
My man, I love you guys, man. Y'all be cool, man.
Have a good one, man.
All right.
Yeah, but no, yeah, I mean, I can hear you guys go at it all day. I mean, you guys, it was great conversation. But I think that's a good place to wrap things up for this edition of the Bears Den. I want to thank Kent Davis for coming on. Check out his show, That Davis, as well as NBC Sports Chicago's The Under Center podcast, wherever you get your podcast. I want to thank Sean Sierra. Check him out on Sean and Maya, and as well as Joe Tanksley for all season long on this Bears coverage. But we'll be here in the offseason, talking about the postseason as well, talking about all the stuff the Bears are doing, because this is just the beginning of these conversations, and especially when it comes to the quarterback position as well, what they're going to do with Fields, what they're going to do at number 1, all that stuff is going to be happening throughout all off season long. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. For Saúl Rodriguez, War Media, Sports Zone Chicago. You guys have a good one. Take it easy.
Peace.